If you disappeared from work for 6 months, would your life collapse? Not emotionally, financially. Would the house remain yours? Would the car remain yours? Would the lifestyle remain yours? Or would everything begin to quietly unravel? Most people never ask this question because the answer is uncomfortable. The middle class is not struggling. That's the illusion. Struggle creates urgency. Urgency creates change. Comfort creates delay. A stable salary feels like progress. Annual raises feel like growth. A mortgage feels like adulthood. A retirement account feels like security. But what if stability is not the same thing as ownership? The modern middle class was designed around income predictability, predictable paychecks, predictable expenses, predictable upgrades, predictable retirement. It's a clean system, a respectable system, but it has a ceiling, because the entire structure depends on continuation. You don't own the machine, you operate inside it. And as long as you continue operating, you are rewarded. Stop operating, and the rewards stop. This isn't criticism, it's architecture. The average professional becomes extremely skilled at performance, meeting deadlines, managing teams, climbing corporate hierarchies, negotiating salaries. But very few are trained in asset positioning. Very few are trained in ownership leverage. Very few are trained to separate time from income, because the system doesn't require that skill. It requires reliability, and reliable people get promoted. But promotions increase dependency, higher salary, higher lifestyle, higher fixed obligations. Responsibility expands with income. And slowly, without noticing it, your monthly survival number rises. At 25, you could survive on very little. At 35, your lifestyle has weight. At 45, your expenses have gravity, and gravity resists movement. This is the trap, not poverty, not failure. Weight, the weight of mortgages, the weight of school fees, the weight of reputation, the weight of expectation. You don't feel trapped, you feel established, but establishment is expensive. The middle class doesn't collapse dramatically, it commits quietly. It commits to 30-year loans. It commits to predictable promotions. It commits to retirement decades away. And commitment, when misaligned, becomes confinement. Now here's the paradox. The smarter you are, the more efficiently you operate inside this structure. You optimize tax deductions. You refinance at better rates. You negotiate raises. You invest in index funds. You become financially responsible. But responsibility is not the same thing as leverage. Responsibility preserves the structure. Leverage redesigns it. Most intelligent professionals never question the blueprint, because the blueprint looks successful. It produces respectable lives. It produces safe neighborhoods. It produces visible progress, but it rarely produces freedom before 60. And that's the uncomfortable truth. The middle class is not a financial failure. It is a delayed freedom model. And delay, when stretched across decades, becomes a life strategy. The real question is not, is this path wrong? The real question is this the only path? Because once you see that income stability is not the same as financial independence, you start noticing something else. The upgrades that felt like progress may actually be anchors, and anchors are heavy. In the next movement, we need to examine how lifestyle expansion quietly locks intelligent people into permanent maintenance mode. There is a moment in almost every professional's life where income increases faster than discipline. Not recklessness, just expansion. The first real raise feels powerful. You tell yourself, I deserve this. And you do. You worked for it. So you upgrade something small, maybe the apartment, maybe the car, maybe the vacations. Nothing extreme. Just slightly better. But here's what no one explains. Every upgrade raises your minimum survival requirement. Your number changes. At 24, your number was low. You could survive on very little. At 34, your number is higher. You need more just to maintain normal. At 44, your number may be massive. And once your lifestyle requires a certain income, risk tolerance collapses. You stop asking, what could I build? And start asking, what can I afford to lose? This is the psychological shift. Comfort converts ambition into preservation. Not because you became lazy, Because you became responsible. Responsibility is honorable. But responsibility tied to high fixed expenses creates fear of disruption. You don't experiment. You don't step away. You don't redesign. You protect. Protection mode is powerful, but it does not create asymmetry. It maintains balance, and balance feels safe, but safety has a cost. Let's talk about something subtle. The middle class is heavily optimized for monthly efficiency, budgeting apps, expense tracking, tax optimization, retirement contributions. You become skilled at managing inflow and outflow, but managing cash flow is not the same as building scalable equity. Cash flow management keeps you stable. Equity ownership creates escape velocity, and these are different skill sets. One protects the present, the other builds the future. The problem is, the system rewards the first skill more visibly. You get praised for stability. You get promoted for reliability. You get approved for loans because of predictability. Banks love predictability. Employers love predictability. Institutions love predictability. But wealth creation often requires strategic unpredictability, not chaos, calculated discomfort, the willingness to endure temporary instability for long-term leverage. And here is where the trap tightens. As your income rises, so does your social environment. You move into circles where higher spending is normalized. Better neighborhoods, better schools, better restaurants, better expectations. No one pressures you aggressively, but standards rise quietly, and humans adapt quickly to new normals. What once felt luxurious becomes baseline. This is lifestyle inflation, not reckless spending, identity expansion. You don't feel like you're overspending. You feel like you're aligning with your level. But alignment can become alignment with dependency, because every fixed cost reduces optionality. Optionality is freedom. The ability to say no, the ability to step away, the ability to pivot. If your monthly obligations require consistent high income, your optionality shrinks. And without optionality, even high earners feel trapped. This is why some professionals earning six figures still feel anxious. They are not poor, but they are committed, deeply committed, to a structure that demands continuation. The irony? From the outside, their lives look aspirational. From the inside, they feel heavy. The trap is not visible in net worth statements. It's visible in flexibility. Can you pause for a year? Can you change industries? Can you take equity over salary? Can you build something uncertain, or would that threaten the entire structure? The middle-class trap is not about income, it's about rigidity, and rigidity increases as lifestyle scales, which leads to the uncomfortable realization. The more successful you become inside the system, the harder it becomes to step outside it. And in the next movement, we need to confront something even more difficult. Why intelligence and education often make this trap stronger, not weaker. The middle class is not built on ignorance. It's built on intelligence, degrees, certifications, professional skill, structured thinking. In fact, the smarter you are, the more efficiently you function inside the system. And that's the paradox. High performers are rewarded early. Good grades, top universities, prestigious firms, stable careers. From a young age, you are trained to solve problems within frameworks. There is a syllabus. There is a process. There is a correct answer. Follow the structure. Perform well. Advance, and this works. It produces lawyers, doctors, consultants, engineers, executives. It produces competence, but it also conditions something subtle. Approval-based progress. You move forward because institutions validate you. Promotions are granted. Raises are approved. Titles are assigned. Your growth depends on external recognition, and over time, that dependency becomes normalized. You don't feel controlled. You feel accomplished. But ownership-based wealth works differently. There is no syllabus. There is no guaranteed validation. There is no structured ladder. You build, you risk, you miscalculate, you adapt. It's nonlinear. And nonlinear paths feel uncomfortable to people trained in structured success. Intelligent professionals often avoid asymmetry because asymmetry lacks predictability. They prefer calculated, visible progression. a 7% annual return, a steady promotion cycle, a diversified portfolio, a stable industry. Everything looks rational, and it is rational, for preservation, but preservation is not expansion. Let's examine something quietly powerful. Most high achievers are deeply uncomfortable with looking incompetent. Inside corporations, they are experts. Inside their industries, they are respected. But outside that structure, in entrepreneurship, equity building, or unconventional investing, they are beginners. And beginners feel exposed. So they delay. They tell themselves, "I'll do it later. After one more promotion. After the mortgage is lower. After the kids are older." Delay feels responsible, but delay compounds. Years pass, income rises, obligations expand, and risk tolerance shrinks. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The system rewards intelligence when it serves the system. But wealth rewards ownership, even when it disrupts the system. Those are different incentives. An employee is rewarded for efficiency. An owner is rewarded for leverage. Efficiency increases income. Leverage multiplies outcomes. Intelligent professionals master efficiency. Few master leverage, because leverage often requires temporary instability, public mistakes, uncertain timelines, unstructured learning, and that threatens identity, the identity of being capable, the identity of being respected, the identity of being in control. So instead, many choose incremental improvement, better retirement contributions, smarter tax strategies, higher savings rates, all intelligent moves. But none of them fundamentally redesign the income-to-time equation. This is why many high earners reach their 40s or 50s financially stable, yet structurally dependent. They optimize the latter. They never questioned the building, and once you see that, the trap becomes clearer. It's not about laziness. It's not about lack of discipline. It's about misapplied intelligence. In the final movement, we'll break down what actually separates a comfortable life from a financially independent one, and why ownership, not income, is the real dividing line. There are only two ways to earn money. You sell your time, or you own something that produces value without your constant presence. Everything else is a variation of those two. The middle class is overwhelmingly built on the first model. You sell expertise, you sell skill, you sell availability, you sell reliability. And if you are very good, you earn very well. But no matter how high the salary climbs, it is still fundamentally tied to continued participation. You must show up, you must perform, you must remain relevant. Income stops when participation stops. Ownership works differently. Ownership separates effort from outcome. You may work intensely in the beginning, but over time the asset produces equity in businesses, equity in scalable systems, intellectual property, revenue-generating platforms, real ownership stakes. These create optionality. Optionality is the true marker of financial independence. Not income level, not job title, not neighborhood. Optionality. Can you choose to stop? Can you choose to pivot? Can you choose to reduce involvement without collapsing your financial structure? If the answer is no, then the structure still owns you. The middle-class trap is not about being poor. It's about confusing high income with high control. They are not the same. A surgeon earning $400,000 a year, who must operate continuously to maintain lifestyle, has less structural freedom than an owner earning $120,000 from equity that runs without daily presence. Income impresses. Ownership liberates. And yet most professionals spend 30-40 years perfecting income growth, while allocating minimal time to building true ownership. Why? Because ownership requires front-loaded discomfort. Lower initial returns, higher uncertainty, longer timelines. It often looks inefficient at first, and the middle-class mindset is trained to avoid inefficiency. But asymmetry rarely looks efficient in the beginning. It looks risky. It looks slow. It looks unclear. Until one day, it doesn't require permission. That's the dividing line. Permission-based income versus position-based income. Permission-based income requires approval from markets, employers, or clients. Position-based income comes from what you own. The trap dissolves when you begin shifting energy from income optimization to ownership accumulation, not recklessly, not emotionally, strategically, gradually, consistently. You don't need to abandon stability. You need to stop worshipping it. Stability should fund ownership, not replace it, because comfort without ownership is long-term dependence. And dependence, even when well paid, is still dependence. The middle class is not a mistake. It's a stage. But it becomes a trap when you mistake the stage for the destination. And once you see that difference, you stop asking, how do I earn more? And start asking, what do I own? That question changes everything.